The All Dress Podcast with Conor McKenna, Eric Macramella, and Shaun Starr starts now.
Welcome to a new edition of All Dressed on your favorite platform, be it iTunes. Perhaps you're looking at us on YouTube and you're shocked by just how good looking we are. I must say, Shaun Starr, you've never looked better. Your lighting, the background, I think you've hit it.
Have I nailed it?
I think so.
Well, I have to tell you, this is why I love my girlfriend, Madvi. She's the best person I've ever found in my life. And I told her, I said, the guys have been busting me up a little bit because my background here it's like gray. Eric has nice background. We see Conor's home, nice background, a little texture. And I just got this kind of gray plate behind me. And she was like, no. It makes them focus on you and what you're saying. I'm like, wow.
She's really positive. Talk about taking an incredible pedestrian negative and flipping it around. For me, Shaun looks good. We're both wearing Puma. Mine is more of a man color. His is teal, I guess.
I think
mine
more
is a
manliness to wear this color, Papa, over there.
I don't think so. But as far as me, I'll just say this. Look, I've been on Zoom now on a regular basis for about a year. I've absolutely had it. It reminds me of one thing every single day I'm on. I have a good hair day and a bad face day. So Zoom, if you're listening, do me a favor and go to hell. Okay, Conor.
Wow. Eric, I must say that the opposite. I don't know if this is a weather thing. In Montreal, it's kind of a rainy, unpleasant day, the first one we've had in a while. But you're looking, it's very dark where you are. It's you're not as surrounded by beautiful lighting. I assume,
really,
Eric, I assumed you had a lighting team that you
do. Let's go through the different lights.
No, yeah, I want to see chastise these people in front of us, please.
Have you guys considered those ring lights?
That's what I have. That's what I'm playing with right now.
Oh, really?
Is that better?
I want one.
Of course.
I want one. That's good.
Speaking of lighting, I have a scented candle lit here in the background. Look at this, makes it look like my ear's on fire. See that? My flaming
looks
ear?
very what's it, goth.
Are you big candle people?
I love candles. I love my
candles. Us too. Yeah, we have them all the time.
from Bath and Body Works. They're very expensive.
Yes,
they smell so good.
Really? See, because because I guess I'm a lawyer, we don't play with fire in the house. It's against the rules.
Oh wow! Yeah, we learned this morning on the show that Eric is not down with water parks. Now we learned that he's not down with fire. It sounds like you don't like fun.
And my father removed Tim Spears' testicular or his testicle when he had testicular cancer, and that was my grade 5 science fair project. Was his testicle? I put it in a jar, and I had Tim sit to the left. And every time someone walked by, he would point to the jar and say, "That's my testicle." And then later we did a testicular Q&A as well, and he answered a lot of questions, particularly focused on his balance when he's walking, if that's been effective.
Is your dad a doctor?
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, important. Yeah, right. Thank God.
Yes.
Oh, thank God.
He was in charge of paper bags of Steinbergs.
All right. So listen, it's episode 11 of the show. Let's talk about the Canadians coming off a loss to their opponent last night, the Calgary Flames. This was not a good game. And I'm sure that we all have things we want to say about this. But you know what, you guys? I think it's important in life that we also are able to talk about the things that we're thankful for, the things that we feel lucky about. And in this case, I want to hear a positive on last night's game. Eric, you're first. Give me something positive from last night.
Well, I have two positives. The game went on long enough that I was able to have not one, but 2 cigars. I love cigars, so it was fantastic. I'm not one of these guys that gets sick when I smoke cigars. Because I'm so chubby and fat and have this Egyptian constitution, I could smoke 2 cigars in one sitting, have 2 beers and a glass of wine, and I'm totally fine.
Whoa! Wow! What?
Yeah,
you're talking about how sitting down is the new smoking. You've given me a really hard time when you've seen me smoking in the past. You're smoking. What are we talking here? Like Cohibas, or you got
these were Monte Cristo 2s. Yeah.
Wow!
Cristo 2s.
Dude, you're balling hard.
I smoke and you're doing this outside?
Yes, I was watching the game on my iPad in the backyard in our new lawn furniture, which is very exciting from Costco.
And I understand, Eric, am I correct here that I'm doing a podcast with two men who both have fake grass in their backyards?
I was going to bring that up. You stole my thunder. I saw his fake grass yesterday.
You saw that? Yeah. So we have fake grass because we can't grow grass in the backyard because we haven't tried. Anyway, but I remember when the guy came to install the grass, I opened the door. He's covered in dirt, which is weird because it's fake grass, right? And he had one carpeted grass over his left shoulder. And he said two things to me. No, he said one thing. He goes, "Are you Eric Macramel from TSN?" I said, "Yes." And his exact response was, and I'm not making it up, he said, "Your coverage of Pistorius was captivating." After he was done installing the grass, what did he say to me? "I gave you the non-cancer grass." I'm like, "Non-cancer grass? You say there's cancer grass?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Well, does non mean no cancer or kind of no cancer grass?" A discussion we should have had at the outset.
Wow.
Indeed. You pay a little bit more per square footage, but I think at the end, Eric, Conor, it is worth the investment. My humble opinion.
I'm about to spend more money than I've ever spent on anything on my new backyard, and there's going to be
my God,
no grass whatsoever. So that's
I feel for you. How big is it? I mean, it's crazy how what things like the price of a piece of wood that was $9 last year is now $26 for the exact same piece of lumber.
We're not even messing with wood. It's stone. We're buying these stones, and the stones are very expensive. But anyway, whatever. No need my life story. Shaun, what's your positive?
Okay, my positive is the twofold. My first positive is Brett Kulak had a breakaway in a hockey game. That was awesome. He's such a great skater. I thoroughly enjoy watching him. I like watching him play. I like watching him skate. The second thing is nobody got hurt. The Canadians left, other than their bruised egos, everyone should be there healthy Saturday evening when they play Calgary again. Conor, what's your positive?
Yeah, you definitely couldn't come up with a like everyone had fun. Because they did not have fun. Nobody's having fun right now on the CH, and this is pretty obvious. And it seems like the list of people who aren't having fun is getting bigger and bigger. My positive from last night, I know I'm the one who threw this out there. I'm going to give you Jonathan Drouin, who I thought played a better game than we've become used to, that he looked less lethargic, but still kind of lethargic, but that's as positive as I can get right now.
It was a nice pass to Anderson.
It was great.
Yeah, very nice pass.
And I said this morning, I wonder, I really do think if Anderson scores and doesn't hit the crossbar there, I think we have a completely different hockey game. But I think that's how fragile this team is right now, is that it's a game of such inches. They're sort of walking on the edge of the knife. And if something doesn't go your way early on, they spiral out of control pretty early. That's sort of how I see what's going on right now.
Yeah, I also thought Jake Allen played reasonably well. I don't think we lost because of Jake Allen. Maybe he could have made a couple of great, phenomenal, but I thought he made some really good saves. So that to me was a positive in the game.
But let me ask you,
I thought Josh Anderson played well as well.
But let me ask you something like I shrugged my shoulders. Jake Allen, yeah, it's okay, it's fine. But Conor, do you think this is like you're seeing why he's never been established as a number one goaltender? Is this like the 5-game sample size? Is this enough to show you why?
I think I do. But I felt that way after 3 games. So I still feel that way now. And the track record is long. Jake Allen's an excellent backup goaltender who for some reason can't get goal support. But no, there's a reason why he was supposed to be the Blues guy on a really, really good Blues team for a long time. It never worked out. And on a less good Canadians team also, he's not a number one guy. It's not a knock on the guy. If your expectations are where they should be, then you should have no problem with the fact that this is who he is. And he's not a guy who's going to take you to the promised land. He's not a guy who's going to be a franchise goalie in this fantasy scenario where Carey Price gets claimed in the expansion draft. It's just not who Jake Allen is. We've seen enough. He's been around long enough. We know this.
I guess if we look back at the season so far and you look at the body of work for Carey Price and the body of work for Jake Allen, I'm not convinced that Carey Price has been better than Jake Allen. Now, Carey Price had a really nice stretch, but overall, I haven't seen really necessarily games where we've lost because of Jake Allen, but there have been games where we've lost because of Carey Price. Very unfair.
I think that's very fair, and I think that's an accurate statement to make. I wouldn't take issue with that, and so much so, I think earlier this week, Conor and I were doing our daily 7:05 press review segment, and we were talking about Jose Theodore's piece in the Journal de Montréal and his belief at the time. I mean, I'll respect his bold prediction of thinking that Jake Allen was going to steal Carey Price's job, but it's amazing to see how one man's opinion fast forward into real time. And yeah, no, I mean, you're completely swinging a miss there. I mean, Jake Allen isn't taking anyone's job. We'll see whether or not this team can start scoring again once and if Carey Price gets back as early as this weekend.
The goal support thing is really is something else, though. It's a sight to behold. I mean, you want to talk about sample sizes. It is just they're two different hockey teams, just like there are two different hockey teams on Monday night versus Wednesday night. And we look at what happened last night in that game, and they did come out pretty hot with that opportunity for Anderson, and then things just crumbled in the sort of thereafter, right? They were being outshot 8-2, 6-2, 6 minutes into this game, and they never really were able to get to a point. I'm trying to think if there was a good sequence where they dominated. Nothing really comes to mind. It was a tough one. So we've now got the positives out of the way. How do we account for this? Obviously, these guys know the situation. I'm not going to say that Dominic Ducharme needs to get these guys ready. They know what's going on. I don't care if it's 20-year-old Jesperi Kotkaniemi or 36-year-old Shea Weber. One way or the other, they know the stakes. They know they can put away the Calgary Flames. They're on home ice where they've struggled. The Flames have played last night. All the reasons in the world are there why they should not have been as flat and frankly disinterested. It's such a cliche, guys, to hear, oh, well, the other team, they wanted it more. This is without a doubt is the right way of thinking of that game last night. So Shaun, go ahead. How do you explain showing up the way that they did last night?
It's a disappointing effort, no doubt, following up that, the 5-0 loss on Saturday and the Leafs game in between. And this is how I choose to look at it. I'm going to be curious to hear, your feedback based on my perspective, in that there's the contrast between Ottawa, Calgary, and Winnipeg, and then how the Canadians competed against Toronto. I think what I'm getting at is that the Leafs and the Canadians guys are very, very similar. Speed, skill, everything else falls to the background. Ottawa, Calgary, Winnipeg, not as skilled, rely more on team hard work, playing a more defensive type of game. And I think you see why Montreal gets pushed to the outside, why Montreal has a hard time with those teams. But against a skilled team like Toronto, they seem to play a more north-south game and are seemingly more comfortable. And I think the other issue for me is, while they have the experience, I think they lack experience at the key positions in Kotkaniemi and Suzuki. And while they have it in Weber and Stahl and Corey Perry, as we pointed out several times, boys, this isn't the prime version of those guys. And you can't expect them to play like they used to play while looking at Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, Eric, and thinking, well, it's 16 games to go. You better show us that you're ready for prime time. It's an unfair expectation, and they're living through this experiment in real time.
Well, look, first, hat tip to the Flames for playing a really good game, coming out prepared with a great aggressive forecheck, bearing down on the Canadians defensemen in our own zone deep, and doing a really good job. I think the Canadians match up well against the Flames. I mean, to me, they strike me as somewhat similar team. Two teams that struggle to score goals. Two teams that will only be successful if they are aggressive, particularly aggressive on the forecheck and also on the back check. The Canadians are woefully inconsistent. So what does that say to us? Because yesterday they couldn't break out of their zone if you paid them, and you were paying them, and they still couldn't break out of their zone. Well, why is that? Is Ducharme being outcoached? Is he not making the adjustments? I don't know, but when I watch the game, if I have a team that is so inconsistent all season long, Conor, what it says to me is they're just average or slightly below average. They're just maybe not a good enough team to bring it every night.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. And the problem too, guys, I love talking about expectations. Starting out 7-1-2 creates expectations that are very difficult to live up to when the pendulum swings back the other way. I think we've got a team here that the young guys essentially have not played up to whatever unfair expectations that they may have been saddled with. And that is Nick Suzuki being a borderline star player, which is what he looked like for the first month of the season. Jesperi Kotkaniemi being a guy who can win battles consistently and look dominant at times, which he very honestly, to me, seldom does. And even Alexander Romanov, who's been good, but the expectations for Romanov, I think, might have been that he'd be able to deliver a little bit more offense than he has so far. I like the season that he's having. There's that. And then there's the older guys. The older guys being Shea Weber, who has looked very pedestrian for a while now, which is to be expected for a player of his age with the kind of mileage he has on his body. Jeff Petrie isn't the guy who looked like a Norris Trophy candidate for the first 20 or so games this year. He's probably also not the guy who's looked like a waiver candidate at times in the last couple of games. He's somewhere in between. And you can sort of go on with guys like that. Tyler Toffoli's been a really good player. Is he a guy who's going to get you 40 goals in a season? No, but he was playing like it early in the year. Josh Anderson, really good. But again, a 40-point pace, a 40-goal pace at one point, that's not who he is. And I think these things, the chickens have kind of come home to roost a little bit simultaneously here. And I think ultimately it's true. They're good enough to be a fourth place team in this division. If they keep rolling and get some luck, maybe they're good enough to be a third place team in this division, although it looks less likely now. But they're not as good as they were at the beginning of the season. And that's why they've got just 11 wins in their last 30 games. They have lost 19 of their last 30 games. Guys, that's a big sample size, and I think tells us more about who they are than the first 10 games did.
Connor, I agree that some of these players exceeded expectation and they were producing at levels they haven't produced before. But the great thing about this team, the manner it was constructed in is that the team finally, for the first time in a decade, had depth. That if one line wasn't producing, and another line would produce. And it's kind of surprising when you watch this team, the collection of players, there's enough talent there. Now, you mentioned Shea Weber. This is an introduction I want to have. Load management, meet Shea Weber. Shea Weber, meet load management. You've talked about load management on your show a number of times. You're the first person to mention it. You're absolutely right. I think Shea Weber, I don't know if you mentioned that specifically, but Shea Weber, Shaun, needs to have his minutes managed. I'm sorry. He is completely ineffective.
Well, and there's a reason why Dominic Ducharme continues to he's going to roll with Eric Staal. I'm going to be curious to see if he rolls with him Friday and Saturday. And he continues to roll out Shea Weber as often as he does and use Corey Perry as often as he does. And I brought this up on the show this morning with Conor. That have you asked yourself as a Habs fan, why is it that Corey Perry seems to be the most dominant forward on this team consistently since he got back in the lineup? That's a bit of an issue. It's a bit of an issue. And so I take you back to my original point that if we're talking about Tyler Toffoli lighting it up or Josh Anderson lighting it up, where's Jonathan Drouin? Played better last night, but it wasn't so good the night before. Does it not come down to these guys and Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, and then ultimately Phil Danault, who's playing a lot better, but it took him 40 games to get to this mark, that they don't have enough reps and that they don't have a game breaker and they don't have really anybody as good as they are, as deep as they are. I agree. And they are a good team. I like them. I think they are a good team, but so many things have to happen right, Connor, for the Canadiens to achieve a win. Like depth has to go. Danault's line has to go. You got to be rolling these lines and you have to have a good goaltender. And if one of those things kind of breaks down, I think it results in a systemic breakdown on the team.
And I think accountability is a problem. I mean, you can talk about load management all you want, but the thing that I kept talking about, and I will sort of keep talking about when it comes to Weber, and I don't mean to pick on him. You can talk about Eric Staal too if you want. Is that you want to talk about expectations? What happened? Eric Staal rode the Lightning. Not the Tampa Bay, but just rode the Lightning into his Montreal debut, scored a great overtime winner, delivering really one of the great moments of the season so far for the Canadiens. What did that do? It probably had the old Ryan Poehling effect of elevating expectations to a place that they probably never should have been. And the accountability factor is significant for me. Call it load management if you want. I'll call it accountability. Ultimately, if you're not performing, it's one of Marc Bergevin's favorite things to say. If you want more ice time, play better. If you play better, you're going to get more ice time. That's not true and hasn't been true of this team. And it wasn't true under Claude Julien, and it still isn't true under Dominic Ducharme. Shea Weber, you can call it load management if you want to put a euphemism on it, but he should not be playing the minutes that he's playing. He shouldn't be playing the role that he's playing, nor should Eric Stahl. And this seems sort of reserved for veteran players, but I find it frustrating. And if I think about it from the younger player's perspective, if I'm Jake Evans and I'm watching and I've played the way that I've played, and I'm the one who's put aside so that Eric Stahl can play, I don't feel good about it. And I feel that I did my damnedest. I played my best, and I was replaced by a guy who's riding a reputation. That doesn't feel good. And you can get away with that when you're winning games, but when you're losing more often than not, that type of thing adds up in a hurry.
You know, sorry, go ahead, Shaun.
Well, it's one thing if you want to put Eric Stahl in the lineup, and like we have to remind ourselves, even though he scored that overtime winner, the game he played that night wasn't very good. But you're like, okay, fine, he's a veteran, just got here from Buffalo, learning the workings of the organization. But it's been 3 games, and for me, if we're going to talk about a veteran maybe sitting, maybe watching, having his minutes handled, Eric Stahl is number 1 on my list. And it doesn't mean that Jake Evans doesn't play. Jake Evans can move over to the right side, but he put Yoel Armia back into the lineup yesterday.
Who?
So Jake Joyeux. Is he back to Joyeux? He's COVID off the COVID list, so he's back to Joyeux. On sait pas, on s'attend. But he was back on the right side, and Jake Evans had to come out yesterday. And this is where I think, on our next episode, maybe there it'll be a little bit more finger pointing at Dominic Ducharme, because we're going to have 2 more games to watch him and see what he does with Joyeux. Joyeux, Yoel Armia, and Jake Evans and Eric Stahl. So there's a chance here for I think the coach Eric to maybe right a couple of wrongs, and maybe I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for this one game.
I think you've nailed it. Look, here's the thing: is I have been unconvinced with Ducharme, but you give him a shot, and he's got a great reputation, particularly with players, with respect to his interpersonal skills. This next game is the test.
Yeah,
is he able to adjust? I was surprised Jake Evans didn't play that game yesterday, because he strikes me as precisely the player you have against a fast, aggressive Flames team. I think that's the guy you want to have in there. And the last point, Conor, for me, is Weber. Shea Weber, my opinion, in the bubble, played the best hockey I've ever seen him play for the Montreal Canadiens. And that's not too far removed. I don't think Weber has lost it. I think he's tired. This is fatigue. When he turned the puck over on the replay after they turned it over, he was out of breath. You've got to limit his minutes, because he's got too many hard miles on the body. He's clearly mentally and physically tired. The schedule is too compressed, Conor. You've got to limit the minutes, I think, a little bit more.
Can I just add one thing to that? Like, everyone talks about leadership with Shea Weber, and he's the captain. He's been the captain of international teams and 2 NHL teams. That, to me, when he came out, Conor, and said that, no, load management, he's going the other way. He wants to play more minutes. Like, that's the type of leadership stuff I'm looking for. Like, be the leader, understand, look at yourself, be present, and say, you know what? This isn't the best version of me out here on the ice. So maybe, you know what? Maybe as the leader, I'll make the tough call. I'll be the leader in the room and say, you know what? Maybe I need to take a step back, play fewer minutes, have my role diminished a little bit. That's something he could have said instead of the nonsense that he did.
Any problem with the fact that Shea Weber wasn't available after that game to face the music, so to speak?
A little, but I'm not going to make an argument out of it. It does bother me a little bit. I won't shy away from that critical point. I think it's part of your responsibility, but I don't know why. Whether he was just in a bad mood or a bad game and a bad giveaway, they said, bleep it, I'm not doing it. Or if it was more to that. But I do think as the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, in good and bad times, it's easy to stand up and answer questions when you're on a 7-1-2 run in January. It's another when you've scored 9 goals in 5 games and 4 against one team. Yeah, I think the fans should hear from you.
You know what? I would say that game after game, as time passes, Gustafsson looks like a nice option. And I haven't really seen him play this year, but I'm excited to see it. And guys, as far as Jeff Petrie goes, am I wrong on this? Have his offensive numbers and his efficiency, had they declined significantly with his new D partner in who's he playing with now?
Edmondson?
It's Edmondson. I thought when he was paired with Kulak, I thought his offensive numbers were a lot better than they are with Edmondson.
Well, he had his best production this season while playing with Edmondson, while Edmondson racking up the plus minus numbers along the way, right?
Yeah.
I think, Eric, what's happened with Petrie is that it's just Kulak or Edmondson. It's just that
regression.
production's dried up.
Regression. Yeah.
I can, but again, I don't have the numbers to back that up, so I could be wrong about that. You sprung that on me.
Sorry.
I'm flabbergasted. All right, guys, let's see here. We're moving on. We went almost an hour last time. I don't know what kind of feedback we got on that.
Yeah, me neither.
But it was it was our longest episode ever, and I thought it was great. To be honest with you, I mean, I wouldn't change a thing, but I am biased, of course.
I just went to go look at our YouTube page, and the last YouTube thing I was looking at was a Wilford Brimley diabetes. There's a montage. We were watching a commercial yesterday, and my girlfriend, after someone said diabetes on television, I was reminded of the time you and I on the show played the Wilford Brimley diabetes.
So
There's a 45-second YouTube clip of a montage compilation of the ways to pronounce diabetes.
That is called.
That's what I was doing.
In the internet parlance, Sean, that is called a supercut of Wilfred Brimley doing diabetes talk. All right. So let's talk about, and is there anything else on the Canadians before we move? Should we move on to something else?
No, I think you've covered it all with all the questions. I think we're good. I'm looking forward to the next game, guys.
Yes. Then
me too.
And my cigars.
And 6:00 start on Friday night, which is kind of a weird one.
Hey, Eric, a cigar question for you. Sorry, Connor.
Yeah.
Cigar question. Do you keep the ring on the cigar? Do you cut it, and do you light it without the flame touching the actual cigar? Do you rotate it around the flame?
No, I always take the rings. There's two of them on the Monte Cristo 2s. I take them both off because they don't belong on there. And then I've got one of those lighters.
Torch lighters?
Yeah, one of the torch lighters. Mm-hmm. And I've come to the point where sometimes I'll just bite off the end because it doesn't really make a difference. You know, You have to understand that when you smoke a lot of cigars, you spend a lot of money on them, and you're very rich, the rules are different for you. So I spit them out, and I spit them out over the fence into my neighbor's yard.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Hopefully your neighbor doesn't listen to the show. We don't want.
No, but he actually came by yesterday. He was on his side, and he put a glass of wine on the fence for me. How nice was
peace
that?
offering. Very nice.
Yeah, really, really
wow.
nice.
And you responded by flicking.
I beat him up. I said, "Wine." There's a pandemic. Took my mask off, and I beat the hell out of him.
Yes. Okay. So let's move on. A couple other things here. First one is we saw a no-hitter in Major League Baseball last night. I remember that a no-hitter used to hold some sort of mystical properties to me that have just evaporated. And I think for me, it happened a couple of years ago when there was just like, I don't know, somehow in baseball, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but that we got like 5 in a month or something. And now we've already had 2 in baseball this season, a sport in which they are, I think, not just considering, but they're going to move the pitcher's mound back a foot from the plate, which is a pretty huge fundamental change that they want to make to the sport. But it's Carlos Rodon, and he had a perfect game in the 9th inning out, and he hit a guy on the foot. So, first of all, is the mystique of a no-hitter something that you still feel something when you hear it, when I say it? Sean?
Yeah, it moves the needle for me. It does. Like when I woke up this morning and I saw the news, the first thing I thought was, I can't wait to hear the call. I wanted to hear the call. I wanted to hear what it sounded like and the celebration. But I have to tell you, man, like I was blown away. Like I obviously know there's been a lot of no-hitters, and like Conor, as a baseball fan growing up, Nolan Ryan was like the king of strikeouts and the no-nos, right? So it always had this special place in my mind. And then after Rodon's no-no yesterday, I was looking up the history of no-hitters, Eric, and there's been 309 of them. And Conor's right. There have been 2 no-hitters this year, but they've come in 5 days. So while I'm still interested in it, it's still, because of the sheer volume of them, doesn't move the needle past the, I'm just curious to hear what it sounds like point on the scale of excitement. You follow me?
I do follow, and I am picking up what you're dropping. And, that I think the no-hitter to me is still a pretty significant event, but it's diminished in importance because we are seeing more of them. A couple of years ago, I think we had 8 in one season. The reason we're seeing more no-hitters is because the manner in which batters approach an at-bat has changed, right? A third of at-bats end with the ball not in play, a strikeout, walk, or home run. And so they're focusing on launch angle, focusing on hitting it out. And when you do that, sometimes you're more likely to miss, right? I've done the math. In 1980, 11 players strike out 100 times or more. I did that for 2005, and it was over 100 players strike out 100 times or more.
Wow.
To me, it's not the no-hitter. I mean, the perfect game is fantastic, but it's another record that I like, Connor. To me, it's because I judge it, I assess it by virtue of its frequency, its likelihood. And that's pitchers who strike out 20 or more batters in a game. It's only happened 5 times. Last guy to do it was Scherzer a few years ago. That to me is special.
So let's see here. Roger Clemens, Kerry Wood, Max Scherzer. Did Clemens do it more than once?
I want to say he did it more than once. Did Verlander do it?
I don't know.
Nolan Ryan?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know who they are.
But it's happened 5 times.
That's it.
I would say Verlander. I would guess Verlander would be on that list.
I think everyone's checking.
No.
Yeah.
Me. Yes.
I am.
I'm checking.
And I'll just do the
Kerry
music
Wood. Did
while-
you have Kerry Wood?
Yes.
Yeah, someone said Kerry Wood.
And that was one of his first games, right? Was
Oh,
that
Randy
against
Johnson.
the Astros?
It was. It was very early in his career.
Hey, I got Roger did it twice. I got that right.
I said it first. You just agreed with me.
Roger recorded the first and second such performances in 86, 96. Kerry Wood, Randy Johnson, and Max Scherzer.
The
Randy
big
Johnson.
unit.
Okay.
Okay.
The big unit.
All right, guys. But yeah, what about losing a perfecto with 1 out in the 9th by hitting a guy in the foot?
Yeah. Cheap,
That
eh?
ranks second, I think, to losing a perfect game.
Yeah.
I think the top of that, obviously, is Armando Galarraga losing
Right.
it because Jim Joyce made the wrong call.
I
That's
still
the
Because
bar.
you threw a perfect
That's the
game. You
bar.
threw it.
It's the
Well,
most.
let me ask
It's
you-
really one of the most brutal calls
Yeah.
I've ever seen. I still. You're right. Every time I think of a perfect game, I think of that.
Absolutely. But aren't you glad that they got it right, like in this instance? Because if we see it on replay and we watch it, like slow it down frame by frame, we're going to walk away with the conclusion that it hit his foot, right? And here, at least it removes any doubt. You know, sorry, you didn't get it. It sucks. It's a cheap way to lose it. But nevertheless, I like that it's actually authentic. There isn't any controversy or conspiracy theories. Did he or did he not legitimately get a perfect game, becoming the 24th ever in the game?
Connor, should Major League Baseball award Galarraga the perfect game, given that blown call was the last out of the game? I say
Well,
yes, except
I
for
say yes.
circumstances.
I say no. I don't know what this is. This is the stupid baseball purist in me. But blown calls by umpires are a part of the game, a dumb part of the game. And somebody much smarter than me, who's a horrible, horrible person, who turned out to just be an absolute piece of trash afterwards, but was a prominent baseball analyst at the time.
Yes.
Explained to me once about robot umpires in a way that I was like, I wasn't able to really to counter the argument. Robot umpires, really. There probably should be robot umpires, and this whole idea of human error is kind of dumb. But I there's just something about being a human being and umpires screwing up calls, and that one is just so egregious. I mean, right away he knew he was wrong. He did it right away. It's not as if he thought about it for a while and was like, you know what, I got it wrong. Like he knew. It's like he accidentally did that, right?
Yeah.
And right away it was like this is it. Right. And you can't go back because you're an umpire. Once you call a guy safe, and at the time there was no video review, right? This was before the age of video review. But wow.
Well, that's it. That's a good point, though, Connor. So I guess I would say you overturn it because number one, it doesn't prejudice the outcome of the game. It doesn't alter the outcome because it's the last out. And on top of that, if it happened today, he would get the perfect game.
Yeah.
You rarely interfere with the outcome of a game. I think this is one such circumstance where you can do that.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember Galarraga's reaction. I mean, handled it with about as much humility as one can under the circumstances. And I remember he had that sort of bemused smile on his face, a look of disbelief as he looked at Joyce. And then he just kind of turned around and went back to the mound, right? But it's just a heartbreaking. You think of it, it's happened how many times? 23, 24? 23 times. So there should be 24. And yeah, it's brutal. Okay, guys, you know what? I was going to bring up Colton from The Bachelor. I don't know how much time we have, but I wanted to say this because it's amazing. This guy, Colton Underwood, who was The Bachelor a couple of years ago. Eric, I know you don't watch The Bachelor. Sean does.
Oh, I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he watches. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So
All I do is watch TV.
I must tell you that yesterday morning when I saw the news that Colton had come out as gay, first of all, my first thought was, wow, good for him, because that cannot have been easy for him. Second of all was, wow, that was, for me, guys, the best season of The Bachelor in the last like 5 years. I love the Colton season. I really did. That was the one where Demi was in this. It was a good season of The Bachelor, and a lot of the contestants have everything to do with that. It wasn't because he was so charismatic or whatever, but doesn't it say something about the sham that is The Bachelor, that the best season, it turns out that the guy is gay, which cool, whatever, good for you, but that I was as caught up and intrigued by that season, and the guy wasn't even heterosexual, and I still look back on it very fondly.
Yeah, it was a great season. It really was a great season, right? But it's interesting because I hadn't thought about reflecting back on that season and how I feel. I feel confused inside, about how.
So does Colton.
Sean, was it you who said to me that or was you or my girlfriend? And I apologize that I don't realize.
Well, they both wear teal, so
that how is it that he was so into Cassie? He was so into her.
That was her. That wasn't me.
That was her?
That wasn't me. Yeah. But it was all a sham, dude. It was all a sham. And that's why I'm
The Bachelor is a sham.
Totally a sham. And everybody gets it. Like nobody's going on there for love. They're going on there to be TV stars and to be on the next Bachelor or Bachelorette and to parlay that into magazine covers and gossip websites and all that stuff, right?
Instagram.
And that's where at least I'm happy for Colton. If I choose to believe that he went on that show to be famous, like I choose to believe everybody went on that show to be famous, and that he was on there to expand his level of fame and broaden his level of fame, and that what did he have to do? He had to wrestle with his own identity that only he probably knew the truth about, and now he's not famous anymore. And now he comes out with this big secret yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever it was.
But I also think that it's possible, at least to me, it's feasible that he really didn't come to terms with it until recently.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Look, dude, I had a friend growing up, I had a friend growing up, we'll just leave it at that, but whose dad came out when we were like in grade 10. And, he had multiple kids. People and history is littered with this. People who struggle with this sort of thing and can't come to terms with it for their entire lives and live their lives in turmoil. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know the circumstances, but honestly, it can't have been easy for him. This guy lived. What was he? A football player? Was he not?
Yeah.
All the rest. That's. I think it took a lot of balls.
Okay, first I'll say this: the best season of The Bachelor, without a doubt, is Juan Pablo. He was an absolute dog. Hey, Juan, you slept with me, and now you're ignoring me. I don't know anything about that. He was the best. He was the best. Okay, but look, people do go on the show for profile. There's no doubt about that. But to me, it's not a sham because someone who turned out to be gay went on The Bachelor. That part of the story for me is a bit heartbreaking. And it speaks to the pressure that he has felt because he's talked about trying to effectively condition himself not to be gay anymore. And it's heartbreaking because you have people who are denying who they are because they're not accepted for who they are. And the amount of pressure that must impose on someone and their soul must be absolutely crushing. So to him, I say congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean the raw emotion and stuff, like his voice is trembling as he's talking. Like I don't know, I'm a cynical person basically, but it warmed my heart to be honest with you to see that.
Now I hope The Bachelor can get back on track because I think with the three of us and with a great season, the three of us could do some serious damage on this podcast. Bachelor.
Would The Bachelor, Conor, would they bring him back as a homosexual Bachelor?
Oh, for sure.
Would the show do that?
I don't think ABC would do it.
No,
I could see another network doing
Disney
that.
Plus.
I don't, guys. I mean, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think the United States or in some ways the world is ready for a lot of male on male or frankly female physical anything on primetime television. I mean, we're a long way away from that.
Well, look at the ratings the ratings were abysmal when they had straight people that weren't white on. as the lead characters, and the ratings were terrible.
You know what killed it, honestly, for me, the last season, which I watched, but the thing I like about the show is I can watch. My girlfriend will watch, and I can dip in and out. I don't care if I miss 10 minutes. But the fact that they're not traveling, it's like, forget about it. They're stuck on some resorts, and it's like, and The Bachelor was so lame. What was the name of the guy?
He was a loser.
Matt.
Oh man, thank you.
And it was
that's how big of a loser he was.
Come on, I need these dream dates. I want zip lining over Taiwan and landing in a rainbow pool of beautiful birds and whatever. I mean, I love that stuff. I'm so down.
But hang on. So here's a question I have for you. So you both believe the show is somewhat of a sham, but you love the show nonetheless.
Oh yeah.
Reconcile that for me.
What?
Well, it's fun.
It's fun. You switch your brain off. You watch some pretty people on TV, going to exotic locations, eating good food, yelling and fighting with each other. All day.
It's it. You know what? It's that the stakes are so low. Right. I don't care. I'm not really invested in any of the contestants one way or the other. I do know the ones that I don't like. Always. Oh, I can't stand that person, or I can't stand The Bachelor, or whatever. But yeah, it doesn't really matter to me what happens at the end. I'm not going to feel anything one way or another, but I do like, I like the fact that I can be invested in a way in something in which the outcome is so insignificant in the grand scheme of things that it's reassuring in a way.
I'll tell you, the other appealing part about The Bachelor for me is learning about the people. Like, I always find that The Bachelor tends to be this unemployed person that is in always tremendous shape. It's like their only job is to be in great physical condition. And then they go on these exotic locales when they're allowed to. And then I always think about, like, what's life going to be like for you when the cameras are off and no one's watching you? And now, instead of going to Fiji on a PJ for a weekend, you're going to a Chuck E. Cheese because it's 2-for-1 pizza day. You know, like the discrepancy between quality of life is so drastic to me. I'm fascinated by it.
But also think about anybody who's a contestant on the show. Like, my favorite is when it's like, oh, this guy is a corporate lawyer in Toronto, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, sorry, how did that conversation go exactly? Where you're 26 years old, you're getting your start in your career in a extremely competitive field. Eric, you can speak to this, but I think if you're a 26-year-old lawyer, chances are you're working 80-hour weeks and really sort of trying to establish yourself. And then you go to your supervisor, senior partner, or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to need to take 3 weeks so I can go and participate in The Bachelorette. Hope that's cool. And they're just like, yeah, great. You know?
No, it is highly unusual. It is highly unusual. What I love about the show are the job titles. Like, it says banker, really a bank teller, or financial analyst. No, you really get pennies from the water fountain of the park and roll them. That's what you see financial analysts. They all have no jobs. That's why they're on the show.
I love it.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, he's such a great catch. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, why? I mean, he doesn't have a job. He doesn't appear to even have his own place. Why is it that you're so interested in this guy? All right. And before we wrap this up, we've got to do our top 4 for this week. I hope we didn't alienate too many people with that way longer than I expected Bachelor chat, but I wouldn't.
Not too bad.
I wouldn't change.
We didn't. I just got an email. I love the show, guys. You guys are terrific. Signed, Juan Pablo.
Yeah, I just checked my email. It's the producers telling me to stop applying to be on the show.
Shaun, do you think, like, if you were to really apply yourself, like just spend 4 weeks getting as ripped as you possibly could, that you could pull it off?
No.
I
couldn't tolerate it. I don't have the patience threshold. I would love to make out with all the women on the show, but I couldn't deal with it. No.
That's how you get.
That's offensive.
How you get COVID.
You're treating women as objects.
Well,
I love to be on the show, by the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, guys, time for the top 4, or the big 4. We still haven't named this. It's our 4 things at the end of the show every week. It is a rainy, miserable day in Montreal. It's a rainy, miserable day in Ottawa. That's where Eric is. And hopefully, wherever you are, and I know we've got listeners all over the world, no exaggeration. It's been very cool. And if you are listening to us somewhere unusual or somewhere that's not in Canada, especially, or even if you are somewhere like in the far north, and I'm not going to set the threshold. We'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Hit us with a tweet or anything to let us know where you're checking out the podcast. I'd be fascinated to know some of these locales, perhaps some sexy, interesting places, the sort of place where a dream date might happen on the Bachelor.
Right. Final rose.
So our big four, but because of the weather today, I was thinking how much I might enjoy a nice, hot, steamy bowl of soup.
Yes.
So today's top four, or big four, is our top four soups.
I'm passionate about this subject.
Okay, well then you go first, Mr. Teal jacket guy.
Puma brand.
But in this case, the teal overwhelms the Puma.
It takes a strong man to wear a color of this bold.
It takes a weak man. Very weak.
So let's talk about soup and my passion for it.
Yes.
Coming in at number 4. Cream of mushroom. Isn't it delicious? Isn't it delicious?
The podcast is canceled. Conor, turn it off.
Cream. Eric, you're the one with the power to turn it off.
I don't know how.
It is
brown. I know, but still,
soup available.
it's disgusting.
The flavors, the textures. You could break up soda biscuits into your soup. Absolutely delicious. We set the bar high.
Cream of. Can I just say, cream of anything is a no-go for me.
How dare you,
John? I will not even feed cream of mushroom soup to any of my 4 butlers. That's how much I hate it.
Even if they request it.
They eat dog food when they misbehave.
So you're gonna like number 3 then. If you take issues, both of you gagging with my number 4 submission, the first submission that's cream of mushroom, coming in at number 3, it is the humble and mighty chicken noodle soup.
You made that up because your first choice was so bad. You just made that up to get our attention and validation and love.
Chicken noodle is the quintessential North American soup, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's boring.
Yeah, but
you're like a chef. Like you're like a food guy.
No, right? but listen, let me tell you something.
Tell me something.
When it comes to like great food, like a country like Italy, for example, when they do something simple, tomatoes, basil, oil, pasta, like 4 or 5 ingredients, and they knock it out of the park. It is some of the best food you could ever consume. So when something basic like chicken noodle soup is done right, like you hit the herbs, you hit the spices, the noodles right, it's great. I can't believe I have to defend chicken noodle soup.
I'm not. I have no problem with it.
No, anyway, I know. Clearly, you're a man of sound judgment. The controversy for me comes in the next 2. So the runner-up is
Shaun. You're not going to give me something that's not a soup here, right? You're not going to give me like orange juice, hot orange juice, something like that.
No, let me get to it. Pea soup is number 2.
Okay.
It was really close to being number 1. Little cuts of ham in it. I have it every Friday at the Kanawaki Golf Club. 40 degrees, 10 degrees, doesn't matter. I have pea soup every single Friday. Thank you so much. And number one, from the time I was a little boy to as an old 42-year-old man, the king of all soups, the undisputed champion, is the matzo ball soup.
Okay, that's not bad.
Chicken broth, dill, matzo ball. Merci, salut, le visit, Shabbat shalom. Matzo ball number 1.
I do feel like chicken noodle and matzo ball could be interchangeable.
I agree.
That I don't know if you need to have both of them on the list, but it's your list. So who am I?
Thank you.
I was because you're a foodie. I was expecting much more from you, and once again, Shaun, you've let me down. All right, here are my top 4. Beginning at 4, I love this soup, French onion soup. I love the cheese, the thick cheese that you can choke on and die on. I love the French onion soup. Number 3, hot and sour soup. Love that. I mean, I love spicy food, and I just love how it's just so flavorful, Conor.
So hot and yet so sour.
So sour
at the same time.
It's hot and sour at the same time.
Where is, Eric, your dream hot and sour soup?
Mandarin Chinese buffet.
It's at a Chinese restaurant near our home. Yeah, but I find with hot and sour soup, it's pretty much good wherever you have it. That's the good thing about it. So that's number 3. Number 2, broccoli and cheese soup. That's maybe not too popular, but I really enjoy it. As you can tell, I really do like cheese. So broccoli and cheese. I used to be a waiter at Chili's when Chili's was in Côte-Saint-Luc, when it opened up,
wow.
the first one in Canada. I worked there for a number of years, and I moved to Boucherville, and I went there. I don't know why I would drive 30 minutes to be a waiter at Chili's in Boucherville, but that was one of the soups.
Wow.
Why do you really put the Quebecois on the Boucherville there, buddy?
That's
Parle
amazing.
français.
Man, I've never been to Chili's at anywhere other than an airport.
Yeah, that's right. Chili's on the go.
Chili's.
Yeah, totally.
Chili's on, even you know that.
And
All right, so what's number one?
Number one is it's an Egyptian soup. It's called molahea, and it's a very well-known soup globally. It's green, it's vegetables. It's not only a soup, but it's an integral part of the Egyptian culture. Most families eat it at least once a week. It's it's part of the Egyptian identity, and it tastes amazing. So
what's the broth?
What's the broth? Chicken broth, garlic, and the vegetables with salt, and that is it. And it makes this beautiful green soup. It's just amazing.
Oh, I'd be fascinated to try that one.
Okay. I'll give you my list, and I also will pay tribute to my ancestry with mine. But first, may I do a Costanza and try to spell the soup?
Mm-hmm.
Molahea.
Yes.
Molahaya. Molahea.
No, but that was so impressive that I got to give you a yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so here are mine. I'll go the noble red lentil soup as number 4. I love a lentil soup, and there's other good variations on it, like a mulligatawny is a very nice lentil-based soup as well. So that's number 4. Number 3, potato leek soup.
Delicious.
It's a quintessential Quebecois, much like the pea soup is a staple for me around the world, but when done properly, about as good as it gets. So smooth, so delightful. So that's number 3. Number 2 on the list is going to be, I got to pay tribute to my roots with this one as well, the matzo ball soup.
Oh,
with you got to have dill. There's got to be fresh dill in there. But again, when executed properly, it is like a warm hug on a cold day. And number 1, I'm going to the Far East, baby. Pho.
Oh,
Now, I'm going to say pho. You can't pronounce it properly without sounding pretentious. If you're a white person, anyway.
I know.
PHO is the soup I'm talking about from a Vietnamese restaurant. Oh, with the
is that like a single soup, or is that the name for a number of soups made that way?
No,
it's a soup tonkinoise, they might call it.
Okay,
right.
Some places, but it's the rice noodles, chicken broth usually, rare beef, tripe, whatever different things you might be down with.
Phenomenal.
But it is just an absolute delight. I think I might have to go for soup today. Guys, I miss going out, man. I miss going out. You know what I used to do regularly?
Chase cars.
My favorite flex, man. Go up to Côte des Neiges. Shaun, I've told you about this before. Make a little afternoon for myself. Drive up to Côte des Neiges, where there's tons of really good Vietnamese restaurants, and go catch a matinee at Plaza Côte des Neiges at the cinema, where you can catch a movie for $5. And the walls are so thin between the theaters that you can often hear what's happening over. And then leave the theater and walk for a casual, maybe like Pho Viet, or go to one of these Vietnamese places for a solo movie, solo lunch. That is my jam, baby. I love it. If that makes me a loner or a weirdo, then so be it, because man, oh man, it doesn't get any better than that.
You want
what
jam?
makes you happy?
No soup for you. We had to get the soup Nazi in somehow.
Some pho.
I forced it in, but it worked.
We did it. We went way longer than we were supposed to, although not as long as last time. Thank you for hanging out with us this week. Please, all your feedback, anything at all. We love hearing from you guys. If there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, if there's something you'd like to hear us talk less about, as long as it's not The Bachelor, by all means, hit us up. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Shout out to Juan Pablo.